Hi guys, welcome back to the Home and Homestead. If you're new, I'm Rebecca. Today we're going to be heading to the kitchen and we're going to be doing some baking. Now the weather here has definitely become cooler and autumn has set in. And with that comes the desire for crusty breads and sourdough bread. So I have, over the last week or so, created my sourdough starter, and if you've done that before, you know that you have some discard with that process. So today we're going to be taking some of our sourdough discard that I've had stored in the refrigerator, and we're going to create some English muffin bread. This is a delicious, tangy bread that you can use for slicing for sandwiches or toasting, and it's a great way to use up some of your sourdough discard. So let's head to the kitchen so we can make some homemade English muffin bread using sourdough discard. Now what I like to do when I'm creating and working with my sourdough starter is once I've created a happy and bubbly starter, and after I've done a few sourdough breads and boules and baguettes and different baking projects, and I'm starting to kind of slow down with the baking, then I like to store my sourdough starter in the refrigerator. Then when I want to bake again, that starter can be removed from the refrigerator and you can do some discard, feeding, and then get it warmed up so that it's bubbly and doubled in size again. I like to do this on my Nutri-Mill sourdough warmer. It creates a nice warm environment, and whether you're using a mason jar, you can apply that to the side of the jar, or if you're using a glass canister like I like to use, you can also just place that container right on top of the warmer. This works nicely if you have cool spots in your kitchen, and as the weather gets colder, it helps to maintain a consistent temperature for your sourdough starter. So what I did today was I removed my sourdough starter, I removed some discard, fed it, stirred it up, and put it back into the refrigerator. So now we have a nice amount of some sourdough discard that we can use for our project today. So what we're going to do is add our wet ingredients into a large mixing bowl. So for this recipe, we're going to use 1 cup of sourdough discard. So I store my discard in a quart mason jar, and I just keep that right in the refrigerator. Then as I have feedings and I need to remove some more of my starter, I just simply add it to the jar, and when I have enough to do some discard recipes, then that's what I do. To that, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of water and 3/4 cup of milk. As well as a 1/4 cup or a 1/2 stick of butter that's been melted. It's also 4 tablespoons. Now we're just going to mix those ingredients together until that sourdough discard has combined nicely and incorporated with our water and milk and melted butter. Now we can add our dry ingredients. So I have 3/4 cup of flour. To that we'll add 1 teaspoon of yeast and 2 teaspoons of salt. That'll give it some nice salty flavor that will go nicely with our sour tang from that sourdough discard. Now we're just going to mix our dry ingredients with our wet ingredients until we create our dough. Now what I'm going to do is cover this bowl and allow this dough to rest for about 30 minutes. Alright, so this dough has been resting for about 30 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is do some stretch and fold. So I'm going to pull the dough and stretch it and fold it back on itself. So pull the dough and stretch it. We're going to keep doing this till we get a little more workable dough, and it starts to create a slightly smoother dough ball. Now we have a little bit more of a structured dough ball. So now what we're going to do is drizzle the dough and the bowl with some oil. I like to use olive oil just to cover. There we go. So our dough ball has a nice shape to it. It has become more elastic, and we have greased the bowl and the dough ball. So now we're just going to cover it and allow this to rise until it's about doubled in size. It usually takes about 3 to 5 hours, and then we'll come back for the next step. All right, our English muffin bread dough has finished rising, and it has doubled in size here. It took about 5 hours to get to this point. So now what I'm going to do is shape the dough so that we can put it into a bread pan. So this is a 9x5 loaf pan here. I'm just going to take it. What I like to do is just kind of roll it up on itself and kind of tuck the bottom or the edges into the bottom here. And I'll take some cornmeal. This is totally optional, but just to give it more of that English muffin texture and flavor, we'll put some cornmeal on there. And we'll just place it into our bread pan. So now this is ready to go into the oven. We're going to bake this at 375 degrees for about 45 minutes. So we'll come back once this is finished baking. All right, our English muffin bread has finished baking. Took 45 minutes to get to this point. Now I'm just going to allow it to cool on a cooling rack. And then I'll turn it out of this loaf pan and we can cut into it and have a look and a taste. All right, our homemade English muffin bread, which we made using some sourdough discard, is finished cooling. So now we can cut into the bread and have a closer look and a taste. We have some nice soft bread with lots of holes throughout and little bubbles, and then the crust is nice and crispy with that cornmeal topping to make it taste even more like an English muffin. And this bread is nice and salty, and that works well with the tangy flavor from that sourdough discard. But if you find it to be a little bit too salty for you, you can do 1 teaspoon of salt instead of 2. But either way, this is a wonderful loaf of bread that can be used either served with a meal, sliced up for sandwiches, or even just toasting in the morning. You have some great English muffin type flavors. And if you are doing some sourdough and you have some discard, I hope that you will consider making this recipe as well. So now I'm just going to store this English muffin bread inside of a linen bag and in a bread box, and then it can be enjoyed throughout the week. And keep watching because I'll share with you some other recipes that I like to make using my sourdough discard so that way the discard does not go to waste. If you'd like more ideas on other baking recipes, I do have a playlist on the topic, as well as numerous playlists on various recipes, food preservation techniques, and home decor with some DIY projects. So if you're new to the channel or haven't done so yet, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button below if you haven't done so yet, and continue to watch my channel, The Home and Homestead, for some more homemade, homegrown, and home-style inspiration. Well, I hope that you're having a wonderful day. See you next time. Take care.